WCEG Network on WCEGTalkRadio.com. Click live stream tab or watch us live on your smart television, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn, WCEG Network. I am your host, Damita Chatman, for the next hour, where we speak life into the community. Subscribe us on your smart television, WCEG Network. Like us, follow us, and connect us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Our new platforms is the Apple phones, pads. Go to Apple Store, search WCEG Talk Radio. Your Android mobile tablets, go to Google Play Store, searches WCEG Talk Radio. Last but least, the opinions are the show host and the guest and not the producer. I want to thank today our guests for coming on this Monday. Thank you, Darnell. And this topic has been kind of hitting home, and I want to share some insights on insurance, burial insurance, because when we were coming up, Darnell, I remember my grandmother told me when I left home in 82, she said, always have you some insurance if you don't have nothing but a burial policy and something to just bury you, not to get rich on, just to. And so with the insurance, and then my motto that we have to bury insurance. But what I'm looking at now in the new era and generation, Darnell, I just got a text from a Danielle. What happens is our people, and I'm not talking about all people, I want to just focus on my generation and my Black folks. We are missing the mark on about insurance. And Darnell, you can kind of explain, but the younger you are, you can get good insurance. Is that correct? So
yes,
before we go into that, I want you to introduce yourself, and then we'll go into that question, answering that question. Thank you, Darnell.
Okay, thank you. My name is Darnell Sullivan. I am a licensed agent for the state of Georgia and also 26 other states. I've been in the life insurance industry going on 6 years now, and I mainly focus on final expense insurance, life insurance. I know you guys see a lot of those commercials on TV, and it can get kind of confusing, the different things that's said. So my goal is to help you kind of sort out the different concepts that's out there and the information that's out there, also kind of clear things up. So I'm happy to be on the platform and hope I can help some people.
Thank you. Darnell, let's talk about insurance first. Let's talk about term and whole life, because I got caught up in a term and they outlived the policy and I had to go get some more insurance that was expensive. So let's talk about the whole life and the term insurance, please.
Yes, definitely. And those are the two basic types of insurance. Term insurance is an insurance policy that only lasts for a certain amount of time. So you can kind of think of it like renting a house. You only have it for a certain amount, maybe 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, and then typically that ends. Whole life is different because it covers you for your whole life. So that's the most simple way to think of it. And what's nice about the whole life insurance, it actually builds what's called cash value. So if something happens down the line that you need to borrow off your policy, you can do that depending on what cash value is in the policy. You can't do that with typical term.
Okay. Now let me ask you a question, because what we see now in this 2000, I just say 2000, we see a lot of GoFund for burial and people looking for burials for GoFund. And I'm not knocking no GoFund, but GoFund is not a life policy, an insurance policy. So you want to touch bases on that?
Yeah, it's a sad case nowadays. You see it come up so much on social media where people are pretty much relying on that. Instead of getting the insurance in place that they know their family need, they're like, oh, we'll just let them do a GoFundMe. And that's not a good thing, because number one, other people are not responsible for your final expenses. You are. And for you to put your family through that, doing car washes, selling baked goods, begging for money online. Now, I know in some cases, people are kind of caught off guard and they may need to do that, but GoFundMe is not the answer to what's needed as far as taking care of final expenses. And I just wish more people would take that in mind, that you just cannot rely on that. Because some people will do a GoFundMe and they won't use it on the funeral. So
Okay. Now let me ask you a question. Let's talk about when you do a GoFundMe. If I collect $20,000, do I get all $20,000 of that money?
well, it depends. I'm not an expert on GoFundMe's, but you have to look at it also when a person dies, the funeral home director wants that money now and then, and immediately. So the GoFundMe may take a while for that money to come in, but the body's sitting there and things need to be taken care of. That's why having a life insurance policy is always better.
Okay. Let's talk about let's talk about whole life insurance. If you take out $1 million when you're 5 years old and pay that premium, that goes all the way to basically you die, right?
Yes. Whole life policies typically go to age 100, some 120. What happens if you make it to that age and you outlive that policy, the company actually write a check and send you that money and you're done. You don't have to pay anymore. But yeah, it'll last your whole life as long as you keep making the payments and, things will be taken care of. Now, the flip side of that is, say you start making the payments and then you stop, you're going to have to start over what's called a contestability period, 2-year contestability period, where if you die before those first 2 years are paid, it's going to take a while for it to pay because they're going to actually check everything that you said on the application to make sure that what you said were true. Because the company, that's kind of the safety net for the company, because they get a lot of people that, they want to get the policy at the last minute. They know they've been told, given a strong diagnosis that they may not make it, so they rush to get insurance. So that kind of protects the insurance company by having that 2-year contestability period in there.
Okay, so yeah. Once you make that 2 years, you're good unless you stop paying your premiums. Let me ask you a question. You were saying that they can cash out if you hit 100. Do the companies, once you cash out, do the companies still pay for your funeral, or you have to use that money that you cashed out?
Yeah, you have to use that money to pay for your funeral and what you would want to, use it for. Now, when you do have a policy also with a whole life policy, you can surrender that policy at some point during, while you have it. Say if you change your mind, you don't need as much coverage, you want to go with less coverage or go with a different company, there is a surrender value on there that you can actually, give the policy up and take it and, do other things with it. But typically for that end of life, when you reach that 100 years old and you want to use it, you just get the full check and it's up to you to pay for that. Cremation.
Let me ask you, what is the age that you recommend that parents get life insurance on their children?
I actually recommend age 0. 14 days old, 15 days old, you need to get a policy on that child. It does not hurt to get things started because it's only going to build cash value, and you're going to know that your child or grandchild is covered, because we don't know nowadays. Things happen so quick. You have so much going on. You want to make sure everyone is covered in your family. That child, newborn, as soon as you can, get them in a policy.
Okay. Now let me ask you, because some people don't know, if you get a policy at the 14 days that the child is born, and I say you get a $50,000 policy, and if that policy amount, if your whole life now is $20-some, do you pay that the rest of that policy, or do it increase as you go?
No, that's the beauty of getting it while it's so long. While the child is so young, it's going to lock in that price, because insurance is based on your current age and your current health. So that child is healthy, very young. We have some policy, we can get them in $50,000 for $20-some a month, kind of like what you said, and that's locked in for life. It
Oh,
never
wow.
goes up. Yeah, as long as the payments are made, if they health changes or they get diagnosed with something later on in life, it doesn't matter. As long as when they were healthy, when they got it, it's locked in. It won't
Oh,
change.
wow.
Yeah.
That's good information to know. You talked about, let's talk about for a minute, Darnell, pre-planning services. You do that also, right?
Yeah, I don't do it personally, but I do have connections to it. So if someone wants that, I can get them connected and get that done. The only thing to keep in mind with a lot of pre-planning with a specific funeral home, like in Atlanta, here we have a lot of transplants. So people may be from Mississippi, Ohio, Indiana, Fort Wayne. If you're going to get a prepaid plan, pre-funeral plan connected with a funeral home director, you have to keep in mind that if you want to be buried back home, you may not be able to move that policy. Does that make sense?
Mm,
Yeah. So as
okay.
family is back in Arkansas, New York, wherever, and you pass while you're in the Atlanta area, of course you want to go back home, but are you going to be covered? You got to keep that in mind with that particular plan you sign up with.
So let me ask you, if you sign up for that particular plan, if you pay the difference, can you still use that plan, or you can't use it?
Yeah, that would depend on the plan. Like I said, I don't know the ins and outs of that.
Okay.
That's why I always say it's always better to just get a life insurance policy, because regardless of where you move, you can take that with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and also you'll be able to get a little bit more. You want to get a little bit more coverage is if you're a transplant in another city. Say if you move to Atlanta and you're from somewhere else, but you want to be buried back home, you're going to need a little extra money for transportation costs of your body. So you want to take that into consideration. You may need more than the standard 15,000 for a burial on average. You may need 17, 20. So you can make sure you get home and they be able to prepare your body and everything. So that's very important to keep in mind.
Oh, absolutely. I can we went through that. You know, you have to get that body there, have to fly that body, you got to embalm, pay the funeral home up on that side. So we've been through that. So I know. Let me ask you a question. People that have health issues like diabetes and etc., do they insurance typically be more if they're not, don't get that insurance policy at the right time?
Yeah. Any type of health issue, that's kind of like your report card, just like in school. You got different things that kind of go against you, and your health is your report card. So if you got diabetes, if you have diabetes or sickle cell or anything like that, your cost of your insurance may be a little bit more, because you got to look at it from the insurance carrier standpoint. They're taking a higher risk on that person. So if they're going to insure them, so yeah, it may be a little bit more for this amount of coverage or that amount of coverage. They can still cover them, but because of their health issues, they're going to pay a little bit more.
Okay. Now let me ask you a question with also with insurance. What if somebody commits suicide? Do that insurance still pay off?
It depends on the company. Some companies say if they don't commit suicide within the first 2 years, they'll pay, but it's a case-by-case scenario. You have to read the fine lines on your policy.
Okay. What about pre-existing conditions?
Pre-existing conditions. Okay, yeah, that goes back into like the health challenges. Diabetes, type 1 diabetes, type 2. That all plays a part, because again, insurance is based on your age and your health. A person that does not have any of those pre-existing conditions, they can get what's called a preferred rate. Their rate is going to be much cheaper. But sometimes a person that has pre-existing conditions, depending on what that pre-existing condition is, they still may get the preferred rate. Again, that depends on the company. So that's what I do. My job is to match up the person with whatever issues they have to the best company for their need.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now let me ask you. You see a lot of commercials saying
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to take no physical. You don't have to do none. You just pay this low cost. One commercial I think I saw where you only pay $10 a month.
$9.95.
Yeah, $9.95, and you get this insurance. But when you call, it's always a catch somewhere. Explain that.
Oh yeah, those are what's called guaranteed issue policies, which means they're guaranteed to cover you with no questions asked, no health questions, anything like that. But they have a standard 2-year limited benefit portion on that, which means if you die before those 2 years, they're only going to pay back to your family what you paid into the policy plus maybe a additional percentage. You won't get your full benefit within the first 2 years. So if you see a lot of those commercials, they come on, they flash the screen really quick, but if you look at the bottom, it says limited benefit for the first 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it good to have when you do your pre-planning? Just say in Georgia, if I have something in Georgia, do the open and closing of graves. Is it in that pre-planning also?
Yeah, it depends on which plan you go with. That can be included, but that's one of the things that it fluctuates with. The price fluctuates each year, just like inflation. And people have to know with funerals, everything goes up every year also. So you may get a pre-planned deal where you're actually locked into that price and it has the opening and closing, or you may not, where they say the opening and closing will be determined upon, when that person dies, what the cost is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me ask you this. What about if I decide I want to have this big lavish funeral?
Mm-hmm.
Can I pre-plan that with you guys, or I have to wait and the family have to wait until you expire?
Yeah, you can actually go to the funeral home of your choice and get things started and plan out for what they know. And even if you have your life insurance policy, that'll fund your plans of what you want to have done. And not only should you have that plan with the funeral home, you want to sit your family down and go through everything, put it on paper, exactly what you want. Because even though you may say, I want this, I want that, you get a family member that's actually going to be in charge of one that you didn't think was going to be in charge because your number one may have passed before you, and they have the attitude of, well, I'm not doing that. She gonna get this and that's it. That's all, So yeah, you want to make sure the whole family knows what you want done and trying to get the word around. Yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Let's talk about caskets and so forth that you can, when you pre-plan, do you have a list where you can look at these caskets, or are they standard caskets, or what? Would a funeral home accept those different caskets?
Yeah, if you buy a casket outside of the funeral home, by law, they have to accept that. You don't have to buy your casket from the funeral home, but there are different websites. And one of the good websites that I usually refer people to is bestpricecaskets.com. Now you can go on there, you can see some of the caskets actually wholesale directly from the casket makers. So caskets that run 5, 6, 7,000 at the funeral home, you can get those caskets for like 1,200, 2,000,
Really?
around the price. So you would save a lot that way. The problem arises is a lot of people don't have the money put back to buy those in time for the funeral.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about urines and stuff for cremations and so forth?
Yeah, they have a pretty much standard price with that, the urn. It comes with the price of the cremation. Now, you are aware that there's 3 different types of cremation services?
No, explain them to me. I don't know.
Okay. The first one is what's called a direct cremation. This is usually when the family doesn't have any insurance. The person dies and they'll have the body cremated immediately. And then the family will receive the ashes in an urn. Now that's typically if they don't have the money for a funeral or anything, and there's no funeral with that, no service or anything. That's the cheapest and fastest cremation. Now the next one is a cremation with a service. That's where the person is cremated first. After they pass, they're cremated, and then they'll still have a nice memorial service for them. The singing, the preaching, the pictures of the persons, poetry, they'll have a service. That's the middle range. And just so you know, typically that can run in the range of around 2,000 to 3,500. The first one, the direct cremation, depending on where it's done, that can be anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000.
Let me stop you right there. That one,
Yes.
is that the first one you talked about? Just say if your loved one die in prison,
Mhm.
is that typically the one that they get if you don't have insurance to bring them out back? Is that the typical one that they cremate you and
Well,
send you?
one thing about death and cremations and life insurance, nothing's typical. Some families have told me that their brother was in prison for years. He passed. They thought the state would take care of it. They did not. The family still had to come up with money to get the body home, to pay
Wow.
for the cremation and all that. So it's hard to say. Yeah.
Okay. And what's the third cremation you talked about?
Okay. The third one is a cremation where the body's actually present. Some families, they're like, I want to see grandma, I want to see my mother. So she's in a rented casket. You don't have to buy that casket. It's a rental from the funeral home, full service. After the service is over, the family goes to the repast to have a meal, but the body doesn't go to the cemetery, it goes to be cremated. So it's like the body is being cremated after the funeral. Now, people save with that option more than a regular burial because they don't have to pay for the plot or anything like that. And that can run anywhere from 5,000 to 6,500, depending on the area and the state.
Okay.
And yeah, and just so you know, for the average regular burial, it can run as of right now between 12 and 15,000 on average across the country.
Wow. That's for you to go to the ground. What about if you go, what if you go to the mausoleum? Let's
Oh
talk
yeah,
let's talk about the mausoleum. What about if you decide to go there?
yeah, you're gonna pay some money to be in that wall. You're gonna pay a little
Okay.
extra. Yeah. And
You gonna
although
make uh
I'm sorry, go ahead.
you gonna make me decide to go get cremated and just leave my money here for my son and his family.
Hey, yeah, a lot of people are going that route now. Years ago, as our people, a lot of us didn't believe in cremations. You never really heard people getting cremated back in the day, but now you got a lot of families that's like, hey, all of us getting cremated. We're not paying all that money for this or for that, because like I said, things have gone up so high that people are looking for other options. And even though they don't want to go that way, they're choosing it. Yeah.
I had a conversation, and this is just my belief, Darnell, and you can tell me. I believe once you're gone, and 9 times out of 10, ain't too many people coming to the cemetery to see you. You ain't gonna know they're out there. You ain't gonna know you're gonna bring no flowers. So now I think I look farther down the road with that than just right now. I remember I used to say when I leave here, I want you to take me back to Ohio. I want foolish. I want all of my jewelry in that casket. I want everything. But now I like you can go on and probably gonna cremate me. I don't have to have the chicken. I don't have to have all that because I ain't gonna be there. And I don't have to have a lot of folks talking on me because 9 times out of 10 they might be lying. So just go on and put me away, and that's just my belief,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
let me ask you a question, because sometimes we as Black folks, we spend a lot of money into funerals, and if you can do it, I applaud you. But do you see, and I'm just asking you, this is your opinion, paying for lavish carriages and all of that when you're not there to witness that? That's for the outside show. That's just me. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's up to the family, and if they can afford it, if that's what they want to do, hey, hats off to them. But my only concern is if someone's going to spend all that money on the family, what about the children and grandchildren that's left over? Are you putting back money for their college? Are you doing things, to better education or anything like that? Can that money be used in a better way than I kind of call it showing out for the Joneses? You
Yes.
know, or that your friends and family say, oh, they really did nice for mama. They paid all this and all that. Yeah, but the son that you know is struggling, that mama loves, you could have helped him out a little bit more.
I
Or
agree.
the daughter that, you know, that has kids, help her out a little bit more than put all that money in the grave. That's just my thoughts on it.
Yeah. Now let me tell me what you think. I had we went through something and we talked to an undertaker, and we were doing this program, and she said this: if you guys are going to put a lot of money in the funeral, she said, this is my choice. She said, I would like you to put the money in the program. She said, even when it come down to the limousines and so forth, she said, don't invest your money in all that, them limousines. If they want to come to the funeral, they drive their car. She said, because that's a big expense when
Yes, it
you
is.
know. So, and I kind of heard her, and I was like, never thought about it that way. She said, having a big old repast, you finally got to pay a big old repast. Why have a big repast for folks that some probably didn't even get along, even
Mhm.
speak? And I walked away and I said, now she might have a valid point. What do you think about all of that?
Yeah, like I say, it depends. I'm kind of with you on that. I meet with a lot of seniors that's
Mm-hmm.
looking to get coverage. You know, they may have waited too long. I won't say too long. They waited a long time to get the coverage that they need. And now they're at a point where their finances are not where they should be or they want them to be able to afford the insurance that's going to pay for that lavish funeral and all that. And they're struggling basically. And I have to tell them, you know, you do what you can afford. You know, you may not be able to have that huge funeral with what you can afford as far as life insurance. And then I hear the things of, well, I don't hear from my daughter, I don't hear from my son, you know, but they're still trying to have that lavish funeral. I'm like, you can only do what you can do. You know, get a policy
Absolutely.
and afford. Don't worry about doing a lavish funeral if the people don't really be there for you. You don't see them. You know, just make sure you take care of your final expenses, and that's it. You know, if it's that type of situation. Now, if they have the money, my thing, go for it. Go for it, spend all you want, but 9 times out of 10, they'll regret it in the long run. Like, man, we shouldn't have spent this much, and oh man, why we do that? You know, hey, but that's part of life. People have choices. Same way, like I'll talk to people and I'll say, you know, are you going to get this policy today? And they're like, oh no, I can't afford it. I can't do this. But their cable bill is over $100 or some dollars. The cell phone is over $100, $200. Their priorities is in other things, but making sure that they're protected and their family is covered, that may not be a priority for them.
Mm.
So I say all that to say, you know, it's a case by case scenario. I just do my best to try to tell people focus on what's important. Because one thing about it, we're all going to die.
Absolutely.
We are all going to die. And we are required to have insurance on our homes. Before you can buy a home, you have to have insurance. Before you can go to the hospital, you have to have insurance. In most cases, they don't want to see you. Before you pull off that lot with a new car, you got to have insurance, right?
Yep.
You have a cell phone, you got insurance. They're making sure their assets are protected, i.e., the corporations. But you, as a person, as a father, as a mother, as a daughter, as a son, you're not making sure that your family is protected from your death. You're leaving it on your family. So that's my biggest concern, making sure that people take this serious because there is a cost. I had a lady tell me it's more costly to die than it is to be born. I don't know if that's true, but I think she might be right.
It's
Yeah,
two things. Darnell, it's two things that you're gonna have to do. You're gonna have to die, and you're gonna have to pay taxes.
that's right.
It's two things. Let me ask you a question, and not to get you in trouble. What happens when people do these fraud insurance? Do you guys run into a lot of that?
Not as much because the insurance industry, life insurance industry is very regulated. So they're constantly checking everything and dotting their I's and crossing their T's when they're enrolling that person in insurance. They're making sure they are who they say they are. They said that they wanted the policy. All that's being checked. So they're pretty good at, making sure the person that's getting the policy is actually insured, or they give the okay for the person, the family member, to own a policy on them.
Okay. Let me ask you, and this is not, I know I might get a little feedback, but I say what I usually want to say. We as a race of people, back in the day, grandma and big mama and them, they preach insurance. The new generation that's coming up, I say the 80 babies, they're not too much preaching the life insurance. I'd rather go buy a pair of Jordans than have life insurance. What can you tell these young folks right now about life insurance?
I guess the main thing I would say is, with everything that's going on, you have lost friends unexpectedly. You've lost relatives, cousins unexpectedly, and you've seen what the family has gone through trying to bury that person. Why would you sit back and not get coverage on yourself when you know if something happens to you, your family's going to go through the same thing? Just to try to tell them this is real. You're young, what you're spending on Jordans and going out to eat, you can have your $30 policy that could pay thousands of dollars to your family. Okay. But you can only try to tell people things, but until they get it, you just have to keep saying it, I guess.
Do you think anybody that's living in the fast life should have some good insurance? Because you don't never know.
Yeah, you never know. But the thing is, like I said, the insurance companies, they're going to check everything before they even give the okay to insure that person. And that's a big misconception also. People think that they can just, I'm just going to go buy insurance now. No, you got to get approved for that. So if your lifestyle it's very noted that you're a marijuana smoker and it shows up on your medical records, the life insurance company is going to take that into consideration on whether they approve you or it's going to adjust your rate, all those different lifestyle things that you do, your driving record. Some companies are going to check your driving records. You got a DUI or so many, they may deny you. I know. Wow. A lot of them will. So that's why I say, for the parents, if you know you have a quote unquote problem child, get coverage as soon as you can. I'm not saying anything's going to happen to them, but the more that they're out there, it's deteriorating their possibility to get a good rate and a good plan.
Wow. Wow. And yeah. I'm looking at like all these mass shootings that's happening right now. Yeah. And what if the people don't have insurance? Then the burden usually fall on what, the family and the state.
Yeah, it falls on the family, not the state. Because again, states don't mandate that everybody have life insurance. They're like, that's on you. That's your family. So it's going to fall on the family. Oh, so, wow. And like we know, it's to the point now, we don't know if it's safe to go to church, go to a theater, go to an amusement park, go to Vegas, go to a street fair. It's just so much happening right now. You just don't know. So people see the headlines constantly and they say, oh, that's so sad. But they don't think about what the family's going through, not only for their loss, but financially. Now they got to pay for a funeral. And not only that, if that person is married, it's not just the funeral. There's other things. There's a loss of income. It could have been I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you keep on. I say, yeah.
Yeah. It could be a young married couple. They have 3 kids. The husband may have just been going there for whatever reason with his friends, and he ends up getting killed. Now they got to come up with money for the funeral if they don't have a policy. The wife, they may have been struggling already. Now that loss of income is gone, now it's even worse. That affects the kids and the grandparents. It's just a bad situation. But if you can put yourself in a place where you know you've at least covered things for you and your family, that if something happens with, like you said, things are happening constantly now, that they can have at least some assurance that life can go on when you're not there.
Right. Let me ask you, Darnell, what else? Just say I had an insurance policy and I had this insurance policy for years and forgot to take that beneficiary off, but I'm married now. I know, but you tell me what happens to that policy?
Yeah, that's that's a bad situation. I've had a client that happened to a man. He got remarried and he didn't take the first wife off.
Mm.
And you know what the first wife did? She took the money and she said, I'm not paying for no funeral.
Mm.
She didn't have to. She's just a beneficiary. Just because you have a life insurance policy does not mean it has to be just paid for the funeral. And it was a big uproar with the family, but it was nothing that could be done. She was the beneficiary. So I tell people, especially new couples, if you're with someone and they're married and they say, hey, I changed everything, have them find that policy and check it out just to make sure, because people forget and things happen. And also with like your parents may say, oh, I got coverage, and you ask them where the policy is and they, oh, it's back in the paperwork, I don't know where's that. Take the time one day to go over there and help them find that policy, because you don't know if the policy has lapsed. You don't know if you're truly the beneficiary. Could have been her favorite niece she put as a beneficiary. To her, the niece is now standing there, she's in charge, but all the kids are like, why mama put you in charge? So check your family's policy. So
Okay.
you'll know.
Okay. I have a question. Somebody said, how much over the face amount should a typical life insurance policy, I guess, be life insurance to cover the missing salary of a loved one?
On average, I would say if you can get at least 5 times their yearly salary. So give yourself about 5 years. I tell people, my younger couples, and I may have to, like with them, I may say, hey, you need this whole life final expense policy to make sure your funeral is taken care of, but let's put you on a term. You're going to get way more coverage. It's going to end at a certain time. But at least if you die within this age or this time, you'll be able to at least get your kids out of high school, give your wife a chance to get the mortgage paid until she decides on whether she wants to sell the house or whatnot. But yeah, I would say at least 5. Some people say different. It depends on, who you listen to, but at least 5 times if you can.
Okay. Let me ask you another. Back in the day, you know how you get your credit card and they have you to sign some insurance free of charge. What happens in a case if you typically find that you have that insurance in your credit cards, different credit cards? Do they pay that money out?
When you say what happens, you mean when you pass, will they pay?
Oh, yes. I'm gonna give you a example. I remember back in the day when my grandmother passed, she took out some insurance and she took it out through her mortgage where they paid the house off, but a credit card, it was insurance that was taken out in a credit card, and then that check came. So do you recommend if credit cards send you saying you get $1,000 free with no coverage, just being a member of the credit card, do you recommend that people take that out?
Well, I recommend to read the fine print. You always got to read the fine print, because a lot of times, I know at first you said credit unions, you'll get those things from your credit union saying so life insurance. But people don't realize that may actually just be accidental insurance. So if you don't die by accident, i.e. slip and fall, car accident, or anything like that, they don't pay because it wasn't from accidental, it was natural causes. So you have to watch those type of policies.
Got you. That's good. That's real good. Now let me ask you, let's talk about insurance through your job. Some people, they say they have insurance through their job, but what if you get fired from that job, you retire from that job, you quit? What happens to that insurance?
Like I tell people, it's typically like a car that you get from your job. You leave that job, you gotta leave that car. Now, some policies you can continue the coverage, but it's going to be way more expensive. But with your work policy, that's typically what's called a group term policy. And they usually go up to like 50,000. But if someone has a policy that's like 70,000, 80,000, something like that from their job, they have to realize that anything over 50,000 is going to be taxed, unlike other life insurance policies, whole life. Excuse me, term policy. So if they have like 75,000, I believe it's 40 or 60% is going to be actually taxed. So the family won't get that money. Plus, I always tell people, always have something outside of your job, because like you said, you may get laid off. Companies are laying off, you may retire, and most people don't stay on their jobs 40 years like our parents did. So you want to have your own coverage. Not only for that reason, is that when you pass, you don't want your family walking into a funeral home with a 50, 60, 70, $100,000 policy. Because guess what's going to happen? Your funeral that you thought was going to be $12,000 or $15,000, after they get through, not all of them, but some of them, that's what they're trained to do. After they get through saying, oh, this casket could be better with this button, you need this liner, you need this, you need that, that $15,000 funeral could now be $25,000 because you messed up. They know what you have now. But if you have a final expense policy just for your burial, cremation, you walk in, hey, this is all I got. I got 15,000. They're gonna make it work. See what I'm saying? Yeah, and then that other policy from your job, that can go directly to the family.
Okay, so what you're saying, if I had 3 policies, I only take that $5,000 policy and that $100,000 policy, I don't let them know because they're gonna try to get every penny of it. That's what you just said.
Hey,
I got you.
We know how it goes.
Let me ask you about insurance. Just say if you have life insurance and you die, just say you die in a car accident. Do that insurance still pay off? Life insurance pay off?
Yeah, actually, yeah, they do. Even the policy that we mentioned, like for the $9.95 and different policies like that with the limited 2-year pay-in, if you die by accident, most policies, pretty much all of them, it will be just automatically pay your full benefit. So if you have a $15,000 policy, you're in a limited 2-year to pay the $15,000. But a lot of policies have accidental included also. So it'll pay what's called double. So if you die from an accident, it'll pay the $15,000 whole life plus $15,000 for the accidental death.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now let me ask you, what if you got a parent that's say 90 years old and don't have insurance? What do you do? Because now insurance is going to be real costly.
Oh yeah, and 90, that's pretty much out of the range of a lot of companies that will cover them. There's a few that would. That would definitely be a good candidate to go to the funeral home and get a pre-need and start making payments, something, because as they say, that person has more years behind them than they do in front of them. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and just have the family start getting together, putting some money together, and to make things happen when that time comes, because that's a high age.
Yeah. Do you recommend people like I say over in Ohio, you can go out and I remember I had a friend there. I used to tease her because in '84 she used to ride around with her policy in her pocketbook.
Okay.
And I would tease her when I come home, why do you have this life insurance riding around? And she said if something ever happened to her. But she was real smart because at that time, she went and bought her kids, her daughters, and her plots, headstones, and everything. So the burden wouldn't be on the family. Do you recommend people that can't pay get insurance, maybe by going on and buying a plot and so forth, or even not even a plot? If you want to go to out there to put in a wall, start paying for that.
Again, I'm a big advocate of the life insurance because they can start paying on that. What if they pass before they pay it off? The family still is going to be reliable for the difference.
Yeah.
When if they were paying for a life insurance policy, it would pay a little bit more. It would pay that off, depending on how long they had it, and it'd be some money left over for the family.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I say something real quick about your
Yes.
friend that's around with her policy? I see where her mind was, and I have some seniors that they'll do that. They don't have around with their policy, but they'll say, "Oh, I got my policy. I locked it up in my safe, or I locked it in the lockbox at the bank." Please don't do that, because when it comes times for the family to need it, they can't get to it. So I tell people, if you got a policy, you have a trusted beneficiary, make a copy and give that to the person so they'll have it. So when you pass, they don't have to come over to your house, go through all your paperwork, wondering where you put it at. Let your family know where your policy is. Please do. And sit down and talk with your kids and let them know who the beneficiary. It may be one person that's real, they're going to do fair by all the kids. Just say, hey, she's going to handle things, but whatever's left over, y'all going to get such and such amount. Anything you can do to kind of keep the family from being at odds when the person dies, because as we know, you want to see some mess, let somebody die.
Ooh,
yeah. So that's part of getting things in order. Talk to your kids, talk to your husband, your family members, your mother. Say, hey, what do you want? This is what I want. And just get that conversation started. I think it'll solve a lot of problems.
Now we got about 12 minutes, Darnell. What you want? I'm gonna give you 10 minutes of that before you give your closing. What you want people to know about insurance? Just what do you want to talk about? All that we did, what do you want to talk about?
I want to say that insurance, life insurance, is something that we as Black people have not understood for a long time. But now that we have a lot of our people that's getting into it and agents, we know that it can be used as a vehicle to lead the family off in a better position. And when I say that is, my mom would tell me back when they were younger, that when the life insurance man came around, they would say, hey, I want this amount. And they would say, oh, no, you don't need that. You just need enough to just bury this, to just do this, to just do that. When other races were told, get as much as you can, because this is going to happen. You're going to lose this. This will help with this. And we need to know that we can do that also.
Absolutely.
And not saying that, yeah. And I think that has been a kind of I think it's kind of been hidden from our community for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This probably was before your time, Darnell. But did you ever hear about the street insurance? You know what street insurance was?
Is that like the penny insurance?
Yeah. And okay. and the man come to your door. You remember the street? That's probably too young for that. But
I remember.
We had somebody, do the street insurance, and back then it paid off, and it was up to you after your grandmother or mother to keep that insurance going. Mm-hmm. Now, let me ask you a question, Darnell. What about when somebody passed and you did not know that they had an insurance policy out there? But you think they had one, but you don't have the proof. How could you find out insurance policy is out there on somebody?
That is actually a very, very good question. There is a website that you can go to, and I'm gonna give you the website.
Put it in the chat box.
You know what? I can't get my chat screen to come up.
That's okay. Say it, and then the producer probably catch it.
Okay. It's E as in Edward, A as in Apple, pps.naic.org.
And if they didn't catch it, you can text it to me later and I'll put it in there.
Okay, I sure will. And okay, and that is the National Association of Insurance Commissioners. And because all life insurance policies, they're state regulated. So there is a database that they know who has insurance in that particular state. So it's good for people to look that up because a lot of insurance policies go unclaimed for that reason. You ever seen the websites like lostmoney.com?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, people go on there and search for their last names and they say, oh man, they got 13,000. Why don't they go get that money? Or they got 20,000. Because a lot of times those are life insurance policies that they never knew their family member had.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, so that can be there forever until somebody in the family claim it.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you, she asking, could you repeat that again, Darnell?
Yes, it's eapps.naic.org.
And if you don't got it, she got it. Okay, yeah. Wow. Yeah. So you just go on that website?
Yes, ma'am. Just go on, follow the instructions, and you know, there may be a time limit, so many years, depending on the state that they keep the records, but yeah, you can find the lost policies that way.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Very interesting.
And can I add also really, I had a scenario. That's why it's always good to have your own personal life insurance agent. Some people just go online and they buy, you know, apply for insurance and all that, but it's good to have your personal life insurance agent. Because I had a client, I went and met him, and he had filled out a form, you know, wanted more insurance. He had 2 policies already. Nice guy. And he said he just wanted to make sure that things were taken care of for his 2 sons. His 2 sons, they had different mothers. They had only met each other once, so they really didn't know each other. But he liked the fact I told him, you know, hey, I'm going to keep your records. I'm going to be there for your sons. When that time comes, I'm not just going to sign you up and then let you go and you'll be a number with the company. No, I'm here for you. Make a long story short, he passed and I got a call from one of the sons and he said, hey, I saw your card on my dad's refrigerator. Did he have a policy with you? I said, yes, he did. I'm so sorry to hear that. And he's like, well, I don't know what to do. They just found his body here at the senior place. We weren't that close. I don't know what to do. I don't know if he had insurance, other insurance. I said, yes, your dad had 2 other policies. And I was able to give him the names and, you know, who to contact and everything. And he said, I got a brother, but we never kept in contact. I said, hey, I got his number also.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that really helped. He was able to contact his brother. They were able to get things done. So it always makes a difference having a personal agent to be there for your beneficiaries when you're not around.
Name, you got you say you're licensed in Georgia?
Yes, ma'am.
You want to give your information if anybody's looking or want information?
Yeah, I sure can. My resident license in Georgia, but I'm actually licensed in over 20 more states. I'm licensed in Alabama, Arizona, California, DC, Delaware, Florida, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Michigan, Missouri, Mississippi, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, Virginia, Wisconsin, and West Virginia. So if anybody's listening and they need my assistance on anything, I can be reached directly at 404-707-8922. That's 404-707-8922, or also can be reached at 702-1340. And you can find me on Facebook also under Darnell Sullivan.
Thank you. We're wrapping it up, Darnell. I want to thank you. With your closing remarks, what you want to say to people that's, that don't have insurance, looking for insurance, need some insurance? What do you want to leave with them today?
I just want to leave and say that I hope I was able to clear up some things for people. I hope God put it on your heart to see a need to protect yourself, whether you go with me or someone else, but get protection so you won't leave a financial burden on your family. Also, talk to your family members, find out what they have. Don't let them just say, oh, I got insurance, don't worry about it. No, ask to see that policy. Ask them when that last payment was made, because I've seen so many cases where people told their family members they had coverage and they did not. I don't know whether someone was embarrassed to tell it, but it left a financial burden on the family. It's hard enough losing a person, then have to pay for it also.
Absolutely. Give me your number. Put your number out there again, Darnell, for me, please.
Okay, either number 404-707-8922 or 260-702-1340.
All right, thank you. We got about three minutes to get off the air. I want to thank you for coming, Darnell. We had just thank you for being so patient. I hope this helped someone. Repeat the last number.
260-702-1340. And you can also text me on any of those numbers if you have questions. Text or call, I'm here for you. I'll answer your calls directly, personally. And I hope that I can help more people.
Again, I want to thank you, Darnell, for taking time out today. This show is not to embarrass anyone, but I felt that it was a need that it'll help our community, especially our Black people, especially our young people, because life insurance is very important, and that's a burden, like Darnell say, you leave on your family. And so I hope that it helps someone. Even if you can't take out a $50,000 policy, take out something, at least to get you in the ground. I say that. Darnell, is this true? If you can afford the whole life, get whole life, because term will expire. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, it depends on the situation. If they're younger, they're very healthy, I would guide them more to a term policy, because they'll get way more coverage and later on they can get their final expense. But they're younger, they may have just bought a home. We have some policies that will, like you said, pay off the mortgage if they die or get sick. We have some policies that they get sick, have a stroke, heart attack, they can actually pull the full amount of their policy out and take care of things. So if they have $150,000, $200,000 policy, that'll make a difference for a person that's, disabled now and have a young family. It'll make all the difference in the world.
Got you. Again, I want to thank you for tuning in today, talking about life insurance and life after death. Again, I want to thank you, Darnell. You guys have a good day, and hope that this would help someone. It's two things for sure. You're going to be born and you're going to die.
That's right.
Them the two things that you're going to have to go through: be born and die. And we'll see you. You guys have a good rest of the summer. This is our season finale to after the Labor Day, so we can enjoy the summer with our families. Again, I want to thank you for being a part of Take a Stand today. And maybe we'll have you back to do a follow-up, and let's talk about some and get some undertakers on with you. But again, I want to thank you for being my guest today, Darnell, and we'll talk real soon. Thank you for your great advice, good advice. Just thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Everybody have a blessed day.